President Trump is taking some time away from the White House during his working vacation at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey. Congress has departed Washington as well for its August recess. Meanwhile, CBS News has new polling data on how people say the president and Congress are doing their jobs. Here to break it all down is CBS News Elections and Surveys Director Anthony Salvanto. So, Anthony, I want to go through some of this new polling data. President Trump's approval rating is under 40%, 200 days into his presidency. Does this low approval rating surprise you at all, especially when you look at things like job growth and the surging stock market, for instance?
Yeah, and it's that difference between that approval number and these really high ratings on the economy. The ratings on the economy are as high or higher as we have seen them since 2001, 2002. So you're going back 15 years before you get this many Americans saying that things are good. And more say that they think the president's policies are keeping jobs in the United States. Little bit of a difference, though. Doesn't mean the economy is working for everybody, and that's holding it back a little bit, because you take something like the stock market. We ask people, does that matter to your personal finances? And a lot fewer people, less than half, say that it does. So, then you say, well, they don't necessarily have money in a 401k, or they don't have extra money to go and invest. And you realize that that's something that does seem to, gravitate more towards the wealthy. And not everybody is necessarily feeling all of those things that we usually use to measure the economy, and that's part of the disconnect.
Yeah, that's a really important point. All right, another pressing challenge facing the president, as we've been talking about, is North Korea and its nuclear capabilities. What is it that Americans are saying about the threat posed by North Korea, and also how the president is handling the situation?
Well, most say it is a threat. The question is what to do about it, and there most say they think it can be contained through diplomacy. Now, this was done, and we just came out of the field right before today's events. So I would expect maybe if we go back again soon, things may have changed a little bit. But having said that, the operative word here is uneasy. They're uneasy about the prospect of a conflict. And what they say is they don't necessarily think, or at least they didn't in the poll, that there was a nuclear missile, that the North Koreans were going to launch a nuclear strike right away. They thought it was more posturing. Again, this was coming into today. But that said, they were still uneasy about the prospects of a conflict and didn't show a lot of confidence in the president's ability to handle the conflict so far.
I also want to ask you about Congress, and specifically looking at how people are feeling about the Republicans, and Republicans looking to have President Trump's agenda enacted. Because as we've seen, of course, there's been so much made of the Congress's inability to repeal and replace, despite the Republican pledges for years and years that they would do that when it came to Obamacare. So how is it that the Republican Party is sort of breaking down now? Are there splits within the party?
Yes, there are. While most Republicans agree with most of the policy proposals on the table, what you see is that a little more than half of Republicans think that Congress is getting in the way of Donald Trump's agenda. The other groups think, yeah, they're striking the right balance, or that they're going ahead and helping. That's important because while they agree on policy, not everybody agrees on the way to go about doing it. And we've seen these kinds of divides throughout. Even though these folks support the president, what they often say is they want him to make deals with Congress, they want him to work together with Congress. But then there's always that core base, that sort of base of the base, that just wants Donald Trump to do what he wants to do and to sort of, exert power wherever he can. And that's a little bit of the difference there within that group of Republicans.
So Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said on Monday that President Trump has, quote, excessive expectations of Congress. But the polling shows the American people think Congress has come up short as well. So what is it that you're seeing in the data about the extent to which Americans hold accountable each party for Congress's failures? Well,
the word Americans are using over and over is frustrated. That's what the word that they pick. Even folks who think that Congress didn't have the right priorities, so you might think, and some do, they say, well, they're glad they didn't get anything done because they weren't going to do what I wanted. But what they often say is frustrated because they'd like to see more working together, and this is sort of more of the same. They want to see more compromise, even if that means the other side sort of gives up a little bit more. They do want to see those things get followed through on, and they're not seeing that, and so that sort of engenders that frustration.
So where does this leave Democrats?
We asked if things would be better if the Democrats were in control of Congress, and that answer is not yes. So what you see is the Democrats still are widely seen as not having yet a message, not seeing that people aren't saying that they see what the Democrats' ideas for the country are. Now, they're out of power, so they don't necessarily get a chance to craft legislation. That happens with parties out of power. But that said, there's a long way to go from here to 2018. But they're not yet seen as this sort of viable alternative, sort of ready and waiting.
Interesting. I'm sure they are paying close attention to numbers like that. Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much, Anthony.
Thanks, Elaine.